Awesome. So one of the things that I learned was, there are no bad bourbons, and we probably got the best story there ever was. So Whiskey Tango Charlie Bourbon Lifestyle. I'm Troy, and this is my host, Charles, and we're fresh off a tasting that we just had, and had these wonderful bourbons. Charles, I can't tell you, it was a great turnout and some awesome food.
What a day. Day before St. Patty's Day, here we go, right? In fact, everything still smells like smoke as I set the bottles up here on the table. I'm like, wow. But fun time with some good friends, the Whiskey Tango Charlie club members. This was a private event for our club members. And, we do these private things, and I bring back and I share like some stuff that I pick up along the trail. Visited some great distilleries, stuff you're not going to get around home here.
Awesome. So one of the things that I learned was, there are no bad bourbons, and we probably got the best story there ever was. So, Charles, you gotta help me out with the story about the mistake that was made about mixing the bourbons. Like, so you're turning into a mixologist, not a bourbon steward, right?
No, I would consider this more mad scientist. No, I'm getting everything prepared. I'm just going through, setting everything up, the glasses, and somebody said something. I turned and said something, and I reached and grabbed the glass, and then went and I doused, and I put another bourbon in the same glass, and I was like, yikes! So it was a funny thing. I turned to our host over there, George, at Ooey Barbecue. I said, here, George, you're going to have to take one for the team. I handed him the glass. I said, I can't put that on the table because I just mixed two of them together. So he went off away into the kitchen. He's busy doing ribs and getting stuff ready for the boys to come in. And so got everything set up, right? We were setting up all the stuff. And George came back around the corner a few minutes later. And he said, Charles, that mistake you made was mighty fine, dude. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, we can't talk about that. So here we go. We go into the tasting. We're having the tasting event. We go through the whole thing. George is sitting over here in the sidelines, and he kept saying, hey, Charles, what about the mistake? Let's talk about that. And I was like, yeah. So he's goading the guys up, and the rest of the guys in there that had not shown up, they didn't know anything about the mistake, right? And so the whole time we're doing this tasting event, every now and then George would say, Charles, every time we taste one, we talk about it, and he said, the mistake is still the best. I'm like, God. So by the end of the event, the rest of the guys, all the folks in the club thing here, they said, Charles, what the heck is this mistake all about, right? You got to tell us about this mistake. And so I said, guys, here's what...
Barrel mingling is what the mistake is. It's what everyone does, right?
Well, listen, you talk about, yes, when you talk about the craft finishers, the guys that are really doing, I think, some stuff outside the box. So, yeah, I guess I sort of did that. So the mistake was this, right? And I said, okay, guys, here's what's happened. I double poured into a single glass here, and we can't do it. But I said, here's what we can do. I can recreate that for you. So we had already done the tasting. Everybody still had a little bit in all the glasses. And I said, here's what you need to do. Take number 4 and just dump it in glass number 5 over there. I said, you'll have it. And so they're like, well, what's the right proportions? I said, it don't matter, because I didn't have the proportions before, and they just dumped it in there. So anyway, the crazy part was number four was we'd already determined that was the favorite anyway. And number 5 was best or second best.
So we got to figure. So we got to talk about a favorite, right? So everyone's palate's a little different. Everyone, tastes different things. My palate is totally different than Charles, like totally different.
Yep.
But when we look at that and we start mixing and mingling, that doesn't mean one's better than the other.
Not at all. I mean, I don't even go into what's better, but 4 and 5 stood on their own by far. They were head and shoulders. Well, I shouldn't say that. Everybody it agreed with their palates more. There were some flavor profiles in number 4 and number 5 that really spoke to everybody in the group. My gosh, when you poured the two of them together, it was like I can't even get the flavors that were hitting the palate, the nose. It was like I'm in sensory overload at this point. We talk about that sensory thing because in our staves and thieves training, we do that sensory training and we work on that. But that 4 and 5 mixed, over the top.
Out of this world. So let's talk about the pick here. So you had a plethora of different bourbons to choose from. Tell us about the flight. Tell us why you picked what you did, and the differences between them.
Right. So, this was a collection I'd picked. Actually, was between 2 trips through Kentucky, and so I just picked up different ones, and so trip 1, trip 2 almost. But the flight I really wanted to build was this. I had 2 12-year-olds, which were just 12-year-old bourbons, right? And I wanted to get that stuff in. I also had this great rye, which I thought was amazing, Triple Oak, which had its own little story. And then I had another bourbon over here from Jeff Mattingly in the Bourbon 30 thing. And so those were kind of on the bourbon and the rye space. And then I wanted to throw in a curveball to the members, right? I wanted to throw in this curveball, this collaboration. This is a 10-year-old bourbon, but it was finished in with some brandy, a brandy barrel. So American brandy barrels. They took 10-year-old bourbon, put it in a brandy barrels, and finished it until they got to where they wanted to and bottled this. And this is a collaboration with the Bardstown Bourbon Company. Is some of the things that they're doing there, and fantastic. But it was really funny to watch the club members as they and our tastings are all blind, and so nobody really knows. But when they got to this one and they tried to describe this, they were like, "Okay,
like what's going on here?"
Yeah. So anyway, I really wanted to get stuff here that really challenged their palate and the depth of knowledge, and so we had a club member, right? Remember Mick?
Yeah, Mick. His palate. He's on it.
Wow. So when we talked about it, and then I revealed these things at the end. So when I talked about before that, the funny part was before that, as I went through the list and I started talking about each one and the flavor profiles, and as soon as I said brandy cask, he said, "Oh yeah, that was number 2." I was wondering where the heck am I getting this slight brandy, and he said, "Oh no, that's number 2." So he was on it, but he was very good.
So I did a little pour here of this triple barrel, right? So great story, visiting the Peerless and Corky and his team over there. Tell us the story on this one, Charles.
So so up there, we're on our trip. Went up for the weekend, do our certification for executive bourbon steward, and so we're in town. We're going to make a trip around and visit some places. So Peerless, I'd been there earlier, stopped in, and talked to the guys there. Went to tasting, and so they talked about this thing, and it was a triple. They call it the Triple Oak, and they've got different ones. But the story behind this one was they've kind of did their thing, put it in a barrel. They're having some difficulty with the barrel, couldn't get the problem resolved, right? So they get another new barrel, dump it in there. Still having problems with the barrel for whatever reason. Couldn't get things to stop leaking, whatever. And then they poured it in another barrel. So 3 new oak barrels that's been through. They still have an issue, so they finally just said, I think Caleb's got this sign. Caleb said, you know what? Enough's enough. We're just going to pour this out and bottle it. And so right off the bat, I mean, I could tell you when you pour it in the glass, the darkness of the amber, I mean, you would think this was, well, I tell you what, here's what's really neat. So here's a 12-year-old, and the darkness in color is even darker than this 12-year-old. So I would imagine, I don't think there's any age statement with this, but their ryes are, there's nowhere near 12 years in that bottle. But I really like the flavor profiles. I like the rye, but my palate does seem to go, I like the heavy oakness. I typically do like a bourbon or anything that's really heavy in the wood. Some people don't really care for the heavy oakness, but my palate does, and I enjoy it.
I got the rye right there on the front. You get it right on the front end.
Yep.
That heat, and it still gives you that Kentucky hug.
Wow. That one came out, and it gets your attention. I mean, it's 106 proof. But 106, not bad. It stays right mid palate for me, just kind of right there. But no, the triple oak, nice heavy oak finish. Lot of flavor there, a lot of finish that you wouldn't get. So this says 3 years. I'm sorry. He did have an age statement on it. I apologize. So this is a 3-year-old that has heavy, more oak flavor than. I can tell you this 12-year-old was nice, but as far as depth of oakness, obviously it really pulled the wood in that.
Awesome. There was another pick here. Our friend Jeff Madley. This one is the Bluegrass Hayfield, and picked this up also on a trip up there. Jeff also signed the bottle for the tasting club. Tell us a little bit about, Jeff's probably one of the most interesting characters you can run across on any bourbon trail.
Yeah, Jeff, met him last summer, stopped in there. I had several people that I had visited different places, and he was not even on my itinerary for a stop. I was up there for 2 weeks making stops all around. And 2 or 3, 4 times people said, have you been by Bourbon 30 yet? Have you been by Bourbon 30 yet? I was like, where? Who is it? Trust me, you got to go there, right? So everybody says, you must go by Bourbon 30. You will not meet anyone more intense about bourbon. I've not met anybody that's more intense about bourbon than Jeff Mattingly. Good gracious. So really cool stuff. I love his approach, and it's about craft finishing. That's the best way I can put it.
So Jeff gets a black eye on social media a lot, and I think it's a lot of newer bourbon people who maybe don't understand where Jeff's coming from because they've never met him.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I just can't. I can't speak. Small business guy. He's trying to do a lot of the right things. Look, I'm a small business guy. If you've tried to build a business from the ground up, sometimes you make mistakes, and you figure those out, and you fix them and correct and move on. And so anyway, I don't know. I've read some of the stuff out there. I don't really know. I know Jeff from the heart. I know it's like any small business guys. Look, I've been in business I've had my own company for nearly 30 years. And, I can look back over that period of time. Yeah, I've made some mistakes along the way, and I think you all do. But you're trying to build a business and get somewhere. When you figure out you've made a mistake, you correct the problem, and you move on. So that's what I've seen has happened. Understanding there maybe were some mistakes made, and there's been some corrections there, and I think they're moving on. What I can say about it is what's in that bottle right there. I wish I had 10 cases of that stuff right there. Unfortunately, this is the last bottle that I have. So anyway,
Boone County is another great pick.
Boone County was a really cool place. Stopped in there. It's kind of the urban, I wanted to say, the urban type distillery. Super nice people. Was supposedly probably going to be there for 30 minutes to an hour maybe. I don't know. It ended up being about a 2.5, 3 hour visit. So they really took time and really talked to me about their product, the history behind it. Their big thing is made by Ghost. At one time back in the day, these folks were the largest. Distilling crazy amount of whiskey back in the day. But they couldn't reopen down there, so they're in an industrial park. But it was really cool. The 1833 is the old brand they brought back. They're using, obviously that's not the old stuff because it closed and it's been reopened. So this is, for right now, listen, there's nothing wrong with it. It's sourced. They are distilling hot and heavy, putting their own stuff up. But everything is to the recipe they're trying to, work with. It's trying to respect what was there in the past. So really nice. It's 12-year-old. And one of the only places I've ever been around that's a kosher.
Nice.
A rabbi comes in and blesses us. So they have this, the 1833. They also have a bourbon cream, which I haven't cracked open yet. I tasted it at the distillery. Really amazing. I'm just looking for the right time to open it. But again, it's a kosher thing. Their market is very strong in the Northeast with the Orthodox Jewish population. So really nice 12-year-old with that. I talked a little bit about the Calumet Farms. I really didn't know much about this. I actually picked this bottle up. Recommendation was from Justin's House of Bourbon. A young lady there writes for, I think it's the Bourbon Review magazine. She was there when I visited. We kind of went through Justin's House of Bourbon, which is another, downtown Lexington is another place. It's not on the Bourbon Trail per se, but they have one of the largest collections of antique bourbons that I've ever seen. And hard to get, and because of the law change there. But anyway, I said, look, I'm just looking for something that's probably a little bit different. And we were talking about a lot of stuff, and I landed on this one because I've been wanting to buy this, over the years. I've seen it in the ABC stores and whatnot. I just like the bottle. Let me be quite honest. I love the bottle, I like the horse thing. But she said, no, this is a 12-year-old. This is what they call single rack black. 12-year-old, and this was a nice surprise when we opened it up and tried it for the club tasting.
Nice.
So
looking, we're like 180 days out from the Bourbon Fest, right?
Bourbon Fest.
Hope you guys can make it to see us up there. We're going to do some live videos from up there. We're going to hang out, meet some cool people, and hopefully you can come by and see us.
Yep. One of the things I've been on my bucket list for many years is doing the Bourbon Fest. And so really looking forward to it. And I think there's going to be a couple friends possibly going to join us. Crossing my finger, my best friend Bill is going to be joining us as well.
Awesome.
he's the guy. I'm gonna blame him for getting me started on this bourbon stuff. Bill, it's all your fault.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm looking forward to really going up and immersing with bourbon lovers from everywhere and just really building some relationships. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube. I'm Troy. This is Charles, and we hope you tune in next time.
Next time.